to the GM Talk podcast. I am your host, I am Brian X, and I am glad you guys are with us today. Today we got a packed show for our first episode, and can't wait to get to it. We're going to talk about the Browns' big weekend. We're going to talk about the Seahawks changing things. We're going to talk about the NBA playoff picture, and we're definitely going to get into the NCAA tournament. So let's get to it. First, First, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns and their huge weekend. Cleveland Browns made tons of trades this weekend. They made trades to revamp their offense mostly and use some of those draft picks that they've been picking up over the years. So first they made a trade with the Dolphins to get Jarvis Landry for 2018 4th round pick and 2019 7th round pick. Jarvis Landry, for those two picks, I would say that was a steal for the Browns. Now, they will have to either have him on kind of a rental deal this year with the franchise tag and all, or they can, as reported, try to get a new deal done to keep him there long term. Either way, this was a great deal for the Browns. The Browns did the right thing by making this trade, getting rid of some of those extra picks that they have, and also helping their receiving core that also has Corey Coleman and Josh Gordon. That's going to be a really good receiving core next year for the Cleveland Browns. So they did a great job with that trade. They also traded 2018 third round pick, this year's third round pick, first pick of the third round, for Tyrod Taylor to the Bills. They get Tyrod Taylor from Buffalo, a good quarterback. I think Tyrod Taylor is a pretty good quarterback. I don't think he's a star by any means, but he's definitely a guy that can be a stopgap quarterback that they can have there for 2, possibly 3 years to get their next guy ready. And this is a little conspiracy theory from me, but I believe that them trading for Tyrod means that they're going to go get a guy similar to him. That would be Baker Mayfield. I think that's the quarterback that they're going to go after in this draft. Now, they also got rid of Deshaun Kaiser, sent him to the Green Bay Packers. In return, they got Demarius Randall, the cornerback, and they're going to flip 4th and 5th round picks with the Packers in this year's draft. And the last move that they made was sending defensive tackle Danny Shelton to the Patriots. They get the Patriots 3rd next year, and they send their 5th this year to the Patriots for Danny Shelton. Now, so they get rid of Danny Shelton, they get rid of Deshaun Kaiser, they give some picks away, and they get Jarvis Landry, they get Tyrod Taylor, they get Demarius Randall, and I think that this is a great deal for the Cleveland Browns. I think that this changes their draft strategy just a little bit. I think instead of going instead of going quarterback and then looking for a defensive player or running back, I think that they're going to take Saquon Barkley with that first pick and hope that for that 5th pick that Baker Mayfield's still there. And they could get Baker Mayfield with that first pick, but if they do that, Saquon Barkley is not going to be there, and they would probably go defensive player at that point and look for a running back in a later round. But overall, I think the Browns made the right choice by making all these moves over the weekend, and I think this is going to make them a more respectable team and not just a team that people kind of look over. And mostly talking about fans, because I know that NFL players per se don't just look over teams. They have to go in and play them. So for the fans, this is going to make them a more respected team for most fans. What do we got next? We got the Seahawks. Seahawks make some big changes over the weekend also. They released Jeremy Lane, cornerback Jeremy Lane. They released Richard Sherman, and they also traded Michael Bennett to the Eagles. They traded him and a 7th round pick to the Eagles for 5th and receiver Marcus Johnson. Wow. You could kind of see the writing on the wall, but I didn't think it would happen this swiftly. I didn't think they would get rid of Bennett and Sherman at the same time. This basically seems like the Seahawks are trying to revamp and go get younger players and kind of retool and try to rebuild what they had with those guys. Because Sherman wasn't a high draft pick. He was just a guy that fit the system and became a superstar and became one of the best cornerbacks in that system. I think they're gonna just try to go back to the draft, find some younger players so that they can rebuild that Legion of Boom. Earl Thomas is still a key piece there. I hope Cam can come back full strength. And if he can come back full strength, Earl Thomas can stay healthy, and you bring in some young corners. I think you still have a pretty respectable defense there. Defensive line is going to need some work. Losing Bennett, you're definitely going to have to find some new pieces there. And Ndamukong Suh's working out in Seattle right now. Not with the team, but in the city of Seattle. So that might be a little foreshadowing. And that would definitely be a nice addition to the Seahawks. But these moves being made, I definitely think this is just them attempting to get younger, get quicker, get a little healthier. And I think it was time. I think it was time. It was time for Sherman to move on. He's actually signed a 3-year deal with the 49ers, which for the 49ers is a good thing for them. They definitely can use some defensive help, and definitely in the secondary. And they're another young team that's trying to find their way. They have the quarterback, and now they're pick up Richard Sherman to kind of spearhead that defense, at least in the secondary. What do we have here? Look at the Rams making moves over the weekend. They got Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. They have two of the best cornerbacks in the league right now, and they got them for basically nothing. I think that move, getting those two corners, kind of makes the Rams. I don't know if I would say that they're the best team in the NFC, because last year they were one of the best teams in the NFC, and now with this shoring up the back end of their defense, they already have an amazing defensive line. They have a decent linebacking core, and now they have two of the best corners with two safeties that were already good. They now seem like they could be the favorite in the NFC. If their offense keeps rolling like they did last year, I don't see any reason why they should really slow down or be anywhere. They shouldn't take a step back with these pieces. Now, I know football is different from a sport like basketball, where you can just add a good player and your team is automatically good. In football, it's definitely a team sport, and things work out a little bit differently, and schemes and fits really matter in football, and I know that. But I think that these two guys added to this team makes the Rams, to me, I would say the Rams are the favorite, even over the Eagles right now. I would have the Rams as the NFC favorite right now. So good deal for the Rams there. So overall NFL news, big NFL weekend this week, even with all the NBA stuff and all the NCAA tournaments going on. Big NFL news, good for the sport. I'm loving all of it right now. All right, we're gonna move on to the NBA. So we have my first question for the NBA: are the Rockets for real? Are the Rockets a team that you really believe will get into the playoffs and really do some damage, really give Golden State a run for their money, and even beat Golden State in the Western Conference? I don't think so. I don't think the Rockets are a team that's built to beat Golden State 4 out of 7. I think that the Rockets are amazing regular season team. And we've seen this in other sports where you have a team that's just great in the regular season, but when they get to the postseason, it's totally different when teams get a chance to specifically game plan for you. And when it comes to James Harden, I think that teams are going to game plan for him and figure out ways to slow him down. And then it's going to be up to Chris Paul. And if you look at the history of Chris Paul, and people are saying that his teams weren't good enough to beat other teams in the West the last few years when he was with the Clippers and even when he was in New Orleans. But I believe that that Clippers team was good enough, and he still couldn't get it done. Those New Orleans teams were good enough, and he still couldn't get it done. I think Harden and Chris Paul are two of the guys that they both are amazing players. You can't doubt that they're amazing players. They're all stars and possibly Hall of Famers. But they aren't winners in the playoffs. They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna win championships. I think that they're gonna be really good regular season guys. They're gonna get their numbers, but I don't think in the playoffs they're gonna be able to stand up to a team like Golden State. Many people can't stand up to Golden State, but I don't even think they're gonna be able to stand up to a team like the Spurs or any team with a good coach that knows that if we specifically game plan for these guys, we can shut them down. James Harden has done it just about every year in the playoffs. Chris Paul has done it just about every year in the playoffs. When they get into the playoffs and teams get to game plan specifically for them, they can't get it done. And that's why I don't think the Rockets are for real. And speaking of the Spurs, we're going to go Kawhi Leonard's coming back supposedly Thursday. What does that mean for the Spurs? The Spurs are a team that's sliding right now. They're currently 37-29 and currently in the 7th spot in the West. The thing about the West seeding is that the 3 through 8 seed is only separated by 4 games. So every game right now for 3 through 8, at 3 through 9, I think 9 and 10 are maybe one game behind that. So every game for 3 through 10 is very valuable. And every day that Kawhi Leonard is out is very, like, the Spurs are desperate for him to come back. They really need to go on a run to end this season. They're in a tough spot right now. They could. Is it possible that the Spurs could miss the playoffs this year? I don't think so. I don't think Popovich is gonna let that happen. And I know it's not on him. I know the players are the ones that are playing, but I feel like they're at this point where they're gonna get Kawhi back, and if they can, and they're gonna be able to put him back into the system. He's gonna get things rolling again. And you have to understand that Kawhi Leonard was one of the best, I would say, 5 players in the NBA. Period. Before his injury, he was one of the 5 top players in the NBA. And you have a team that has been without him just about all year. So you get him back, and you have a team that can make some noise in the playoffs. If he's fully healthy, if he's feeling right, his mental is correct, I think that the Spurs right now, and I know it's kind of strange to say the Spurs are a dark horse, but the Spurs right now are my dark horse in the Western Conference. And I believe with Kawhi coming back, they're going to be able to make a run and then get into the Western Conference final, or maybe even the NBA Finals. So good to see that Kawhi's coming back, and we'll see what that really means for them in the next coming weeks. And speaking of Western Conference, you have Curry rolling his ankle again. For some reason, Curry has weak ankles. He's constantly rolling his ankles, and the question here is, can the Golden State win with Curry not at 100%? And I honestly don't know, because the last 2 games they're 0-2 without him. These last 2 games, and I think the reason they're 0-2 without him is because they changed their offense almost dramatically when he's out of the game. They aren't moving without the ball as much. They aren't passing as much. They aren't sharing the ball as much. And Durant is taking way too many shots right now. He's taking 30-plus shots these last 2 games, and when he should be taking around 20, 25. And I know it might not seem like a big difference, but when you're taking away shots from guys that can actually help you, and you're not making all those shots, then that's a big problem. You have Klay Thompson, who can light it up at any given second. He can light it up. You have Draymond Green that can score for you. You have Livingston and Iguodala who can get things done. I think that he needs to trust the system a little more and trust his teammates a little more, and understand that he doesn't have to do it all on his own. And I think that's the real problem with when Curry's out. When Curry's out, he kind of thinks, oh, I have to take over the game, when really you can just play within the same system and get the job done with the guys that you have. So I'm hoping Curry comes back fully healthy and makes a run in this playoff. But without him, I think they're still one of the best teams without him. But I think they're going to struggle a little bit without him. And let's talk about my predictions for the NBA. Currently, I would say with Curry staying healthy the rest of the season, once he comes back, I think Golden State will play the Raptors in the NBA championship. If Curry's not healthy, I think my dark horse Spurs will play the Raptors. Either way, I think the Raptors are winning the Eastern Conference. I just don't see it with the Cavaliers this year. I know they have LeBron James, who's the best basketball player on the planet, but I just don't see him wielding this team to the NBA Finals like he has done in past years. I think the Raptors are way too good. I think they have the best bench in the NBA. They're scoring 132 points last night, and the starters aren't putting up big numbers. It's just that the entire team is putting up numbers. So with them and their bench being so good, them being such a good road team, and the fact that the Cavaliers just don't have the talent to keep up, I think that the Raptors are going to take the East. I know the Celtics are in there. They're dealing with a lot of injuries right now, and I don't think they're going to have enough firepower to keep it going and to beat the Raptors or even the Cavaliers in a 7-game series. But I definitely think the Raptors are the team to be in the East, and I think they're going to make it to the finals against either the Spurs or the Warriors. All right, so with that out of the way, now we're gonna get to some March Madness. So we had Selection Sunday, and have my handy dandy bracket right here, all filled out, ready to go. So in this show, we're gonna talk about round one. And we're gonna talk about who I believe is gonna be the last two teams standing. So round one, there's first we're gonna talk about a couple teams that I think should have been in the tournament. Two smaller teams that I believe should have been in the tournament. So first we're gonna talk about St. Mary's. St. Mary's is 28-5 this season, 16-2 in their conference. They're the only team that they're behind in their conference, the West Coast Conference, is Gonzaga, and Gonzaga is a team that they've already beat this year. So I don't see a real reason why St. Mary's got left out, especially with Syracuse making it, especially with Oklahoma making it. Another team that I think got left out is Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee 24-17, 16-2 in their conference. They dominated their conference, right? They dominated their conference. They have the most true road wins. They 33 RPI and top 10 non-conference schedule. But I don't see how they didn't make the tournament. If you tell these smaller schools, the only way you're going to get in is if you dominate your conference and you have good non-conference schedule and you win. They did exactly that. They did everything that they were told to do to get into the tournament, and they still got snubbed. They have to find a way to make it a little more fair for these smaller schools. And yeah, I know that history shows that the number 1 through 5 are probably going to win the championship. Yes, I know that. But it's always nice to have these good smaller schools in there to kind of mix things up a little bit. So I think Middle Tennessee and St. Mary's are my two snubs for this year. And I know there's teams like Oklahoma State that should have gotten in, but St. Mary's and Middle Tennessee should have got into the NCAA tournament. But let's talk about the team that did get into the NCAA tournament. All right, so we have round one. Well, we have the first four happening tomorrow and Wednesday. But we're not really going to talk about those. We're going to talk about what we have going on in the first round. So we have West Virginia is a 1 seed, Villanova is a 1 seed, Kansas and Xavier are 1 seeds. Out of those 1 seeds, I don't see any of them making the Final Four. I would say that right now. I don't have a single 1 seed making my Final Four teams. The only one that I think could get close is Virginia, and I don't have them making it because of the seeding. I think Kentucky and Arizona could beat them, and in my bracket I have Arizona beating them in the Sweet 16. I do have one Cinderella, if you will. Cincinnati. Cincinnati is not a good shooting team, and they're going up against a Georgia State team that nobody really knows about, and that is a really good shooting team, and it's just a really good team overall with a good coach. And I think Georgia State is going to knock off Cincinnati in the first round. They're 15. They're going to beat a 2 in the first round. Pin me down on that one. And after that, everything's up for grabs for them. If they knock off Cincinnati, they could play either Nevada or Texas in the second round. I think they could win that. I'm not saying they will, but I think they could. And if they win that game, they could play Miami, Loyola, Tennessee, or Wright State. And I think they could easily win that game. And if they win that, they're on their way to the Elite Eight. So right now, my Cinderella is going to be Georgia State University. Go Georgia State Panthers. So we're going to talk about the two teams that I have actually making the championship, and maybe next week we'll really break this all down. I have Arizona playing Duke in the NCAA National Championship. I think DeAndre Ayton, man, that guy's good. That guy is amazing. Then you have Bagley on with Duke. I want to see those two guys go at it. Maybe I wrote this down because I'm selfish and want to see these two guys, but I believe that Arizona and Duke are going to make the NCAA championship. And we'll talk about who I think is going to win a little bit later. So we got a bunch of news today. Got the Browns, Seahawks, got NBA stuff going on, going down to the wire. Playoffs about to get started soon. Got March Madness really cranking up right now. Tournament's about to start, and right now just a good time for sports. Really good time for sports, and I hope you guys stick with me on this GM Talk podcast coming at you every week. However you're enjoying this podcast, I really appreciate it. Don't hesitate to leave comments. Don't hesitate to leave any questions you may have. Thank you for being with me today, and I'll talk to you guys next time. I'm out.